If you guys remember, some of the feedback that I got when I went to Chico was that I need to spend more time with the subjects that I photograph, and I need to just embrace the landscapes of the Midwest. And for anyone that lives in the Midwest or tries to photograph the Midwest, you know that push and pull when it comes to making work of fields, of barren landscapes. It's not like the West Coast where you have the ocean and you have these beautiful mountains and all these different types of landscapes. And it's not like the East where you have New York, Times Square, street photography like that. It's flatlands, it's utility poles, telephone poles, cornfields. You get the gist. So when someone says to embrace the Midwest, you can kind of see where it would be a little intimidating when you feel like everything around you is so boring. But what I've come to realize the last couple of weeks of going out a lot and trying to find beauty in this boring place is that there's not really boring places. There's only boring photographers and boring photographs. And in doing some research and trying to find photographers that not only photograph the landscapes of the Midwest, but also the people that inhabit it, I found the work of William Gedney. He was actually born in Brooklyn in the 30s, but he photographed all across America, specifically San Francisco, as well as rural Kentucky in the late 60s, early 70s. He went back twice and photographed this family by the name of the Cornetts. And it was a family of boys who would work on cars all the time, and he would just document their everyday life. One of the reasons that I love his work is that it's dignified, and you can tell he put a lot of effort into elevating the person. And a lot of the portraiture that I see online, whether it's street photography or everyday occurrence portraits, I feel like the people that photograph the subjects are not necessarily taking careful effort to elevate the person. And that's what I'm trying to do with the portraits that I take. I don't want to make anyone look bad. I don't want to bring down any one specific person or group of people. I want to elevate them. I want to photograph them with pride and dignity and respect. And I think that comes through in my work, but that's partly why I fell in love with Gedney's work as soon as I saw it. And going back to the feedback that I got from Chico, one was to photograph the Midwest more, and two was to spend more time with people that I photograph. A photographer that also attended Chico by the name of Sean Sirota, he's a teacher out of New York. He actually gave me a copy of his zine that he had. It's really beautiful black and white work on newsprint. He was actually looking at my work, and he gave me an assignment of every time that I photograph someone, go back and photograph them again. And I haven't done that with every person that I've come across since then, but one individual in particular that I have done that with is a man by the name of Doug. And I first met Doug a couple of months back. I actually posted on my Instagram story that I was having severe anxiety about knocking on his door, just because I always do have this guilt of showing up to a place and photographing the people and then skirting out of there real fast. And I know deep down my intentions, and I know that, like I said, I'm trying to paint the person in a good light, elevate them, and photograph them with dignity and respect. But I always have this little tiny part of me that doesn't like to show up, get my stuff, and then leave. And that's what I was feeling a little bit when I drove out to Fayetteville, because I had never been there before. It's about an hour east from where I live. And I didn't want to seem like an outsider. But I finally worked up the courage to knock on the door. He was a perfectly fine gentleman. He was a little shy and hesitant about posing for a portrait, but the light was going down, and I eventually talked him into posing for one photo. And I got that one, and then a couple of weeks later, I went back out there again. I spent a little more time with him, talked for about an hour, and I ended up getting these photos. And I'm showing these because they're probably not going to be in the project whenever it's in book form, if that's ever a thing. But this is what I'm talking about when I'm trying to photograph someone with respect. All I want out of my portraiture is that, and I just want the person to look at it and either say, that looks like me, that's a good photo, or something along those lines. I don't want them to look at it and say, like, I don't want you to show this to anyone, I look stupid, I look silly, whatever the case may be. And this video actually started with an idea of going back to the people that I photographed for this project and interviewing them one by one. I thought at first that it would be cool to get some background on each individual, where they're from, what they do, what they thought about the encounter when I first asked them for a portrait. It was just going to be short interviews like that. And the first person that I was going to interview was actually Travis, who I photographed 2 years ago. And I brought Travis up because a gentleman commented on a previous video saying, have you given Travis his print yet? And I hadn't at the time because, and this may sound silly, but that portrait of him on his tailgate has been hanging on my wall for many months now. And every day I look at it, and somebody said, I don't know who it was, but they said, if you look at a photo that you've taken and you don't know how you got it, then that's a good photo. And I don't say that with a lot of my photographs, but I look at that photo of Travis on the tailgate or Travis with his hands over the back end of his truck, and I think, I don't know how I got that. That doesn't even seem like something that I could take. And I look at that photo every day, and I build this person up in my head to be some mythical, godlike figure. And in my head, I want to meet him, but also I don't want to meet him because I have this idea of who he is. I have this idea of how the interaction went with him. And it's a little fuzzy. And every time that I look at that picture, the actual memory that I have gets further and further away. And the thing that comes up more and more is the person that's in the photo. So part of me didn't want to meet him, didn't want to give him his print because of those reasons. But I pushed through that, and I figured it's silly to think that he's just a person, he's just a guy, and he probably wants his print. So I met up with him, and I had full intentions to do an interview, to sit down and talk with him. But when I gave him his print and I talked with him a little bit, some things are just left unsaid. And I think the portrait that I took is the best representation of Travis. And no video, no interview, no talk would elevate that portrait to another level. And it kind of goes back to if photos need backstories or if photos need any type of story. And I don't think single photos do, but I think if you're trying to make a project where it's multiple photos, a book, a publication, obviously I think that it needs some type of story or narrative to help push it along. And Alex Soth actually talked about this in one of his courses when he was speaking about his book, Niagara.
Handwritten notes with arrows going to different thumbnails. And it's my desire to sort of frantically tell backstories to the pictures and to give all this kind of extra. It's like DVD extras for the viewer, or it's like liner notes in an album. But I did it in a visual way. This actually exists in Sleeping by the Mississippi. So in the back of this book, there are selected notes to the photographs. But here I did it in this visual way. This was another gamble, I feel like. It was another kind of roll of the dice. And I've never been sure, I mean, to this day, was this a good idea or was it not a good idea? A lot of people have told me they love it. Another prominent photographer I know said he wishes the whole book was this way. It's kind of a funny mix to have this front section and this back section, but it's something I experimented with.
And to me, there's always a push and pull when it comes to telling the stories of the people that I photograph. And in my book, if I ever get my book out, I'm still in between and back and forth about whether to put some notes in the back like Alec did, or just leave the pictures as is so they can speak for themselves. Most of the work that I made in this video was 4x5 color film, but everyone knows the prices for 4x5 are outrageous, so I've been very selective in what I shoot and what I choose to shoot on 4x5. But a internet friend actually sent me a GFX 50S2, which I had never used medium format digital before. And I'm going to be honest, I quite like using the camera for black and white work. I've used it on a couple of weddings for portraits, and I've used it for one assignment so far. And the black and white is very close to what you get with film. I'm still trying to work with color, and I don't know if I'll ever get my digital color to match what 4x5 color looks like, but for black and white, it is very close. And using medium format and having 50 megapixels is just a bonus. I've been using the 35 to 70 millimeter lens, which I've never used a zoom lens before. It's very versatile, and it's nice to be able to go from a wide angle to a more tighter crop. And then I have used the Medicon 65 millimeter 1.4, and even though it's a manual focus lens, it probably gives you the closest results to the Pentax 67105 look that you can get on digital. The person that loaned it to me offered me a very good deal on it, and I'm unsure if I'm going to keep it or not. And if he's watching this, I've been using it, and I've been racking my brain trying to figure out if I want to keep it or not. Because I think it would be nice for assignment work where I want to get a little bit of a medium format, large format look, but the turnaround times are often quick, so I don't have time to shoot 4x5. But yeah, that is my first episode about photography in the Midwest. A lot of what I'm going to do in the future is going to be centered around the landscapes that I photograph, the people that I photograph, and just documenting that in real time as I go. And this week, I'm actually meeting with my friend Carl, who you've seen on the channel before. We're going to Central Missouri. And then my friend Vince, who I'll share his stuff down below. On Thursday, we're meeting, and we're going to meet up halfway between St. Louis and Chicago in a little town called Monticello. And I'm hoping to do an Analog Artisans interview with him because I think his work's really great. We actually met at Chico. Super cool guy, and he makes really great work. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about anything, let me know, and I look forward to making the next one. Bye.